Hey, best friend, guess what? I am here with somebody that I love so much. When I met our guest, who I'll tell you who she is in a minute, when I met her, I was like, oh, I just felt connected to her right away. Like, oh, you're my people. You like games and you like to like hang out in quiet and like smaller groups are way better. And both of our husbands sometimes are a little crazy. So it was like, hey, we are so totally connected. And anyways, with us today is Laura Weatherford. And one of the reasons that I asked her is because I know I have listeners who are mamas. She's a mama of 6 children, which is like amazing to my brain anyways, that like how you manage all of the children. And we'll talk about that. And also she has a cool story and like who she's married to, but we'll talk about that in a little bit because really, I just want you to get to know Laura. So Laura, thanks for being with us today.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So how did you decide, if you did decide, to have 6 children?
Okay, so I'm one of three. My husband's one of four. We always thought we'd have between 3 and 4. So we had 4, and we were like, oh, maybe we'll have more, maybe we won't. And then we had 5 without trying to have 5. And I will tell you, I'm pretty good. I'm a math person, and so I calculate things very well, and I still don't know how number 5 exists, but she's here. And then with number 6, I was on the fence, but my husband's like, oh no, I think it's great. And so he just handled that himself. But I knew with the timing that I was in trouble. But there, now we have King, so all is well.
Yeah. Speaking of, how old are all of your children?
I have 15, 13, 10, 7, 5, and 1.
If I remember correctly, you were like, I've been pregnant more years than not since I've been married. Is that right?
Basically,
Something like that?
pregnant and nursing, like between those two, yeah, it's like almost all of it. I'll have like maybe a few months in between.
Which
Which,
is so crazy to think about. Such a long time.
it really is because I'm
Such a
40
long
now.
part of your life.
I know. But the only thing I have to say is like sometimes I'm like, oh man, I miss so much of like the best part. But at the same time, I had my young years. I went to college. I fully utilized my college years. And then now I have like when I'm older. So, yeah,
I love how you said that. I fully utilized my college years.
I did.
That's like the most PC and awesome way to say it. I fully utilized my college years.
Yeah. It was a great time. When my son's like, I don't want to go to college, I'm like, okay. Like from a parent standpoint, yay. From a, are you sure? Because it's the best years ever type of way, but that's okay. He can do what he wishes.
He might change his mind between now and then.
Maybe.
Who's to say?
Yeah, you never know.
Hmm.
You're open to
So,
it.
what's it like? What's it like to have like what's a day in your house look like having 6 children?
It's really funny that you say that. My aunt was just down here for 12 days. She came to visit me. And yesterday she was, oh, I just really hope that one day you can take some time for yourself. And I laughed and I was like, one day I will. But basically, you'd get up in the morning and it's school. So my oldest 5 go to school, but they have 3 different drop-off locations at 4 different times, really. So it's
Oh my
pretty
goodness.
crazy to get lunches made, uniforms out, and most days my husband does some of them and I do some of them. But I'll leave the house at 7:45. I get home at 9.
Oh my word.
And then
That's a lot.
it is. And then I just have my 1-year-old at home. So it's really not like, it's not that hard during the day, because I have one kid. It's like, that's pretty normal. And then after school, we have pickups and activities. It's the activities that really get you. Um,
I can imagine.
so I typically get home between 6:30 and 8:30, and then we do homework and go to bed.
Okay. Man, what that makes for some long days. Does it
Yeah.
like turn into a circus when all five of your children come home?
Um, it
Yeah. I mean,
can.
I only have one kid, so.
Yeah, it can. It depends. So later in the week tends to be harder because they're tired. And so emotions, you know how it is when you're tired, you kind of run on your emotions and you don't really think things through. So we have some of that towards the end of the week. I actually feel pretty blessed that my kids are pretty good, but they also know because they've grown up with like the little ones have had so many siblings always that
Mm-hmm.
they they're pretty independent. If there's things that they really want that they can do for themselves, they just do it because it's faster and easier than waiting for someone else to do it for them.
That's nice. I never thought about how having a lot of children could create independence with them because they're like, yeah, I need to go do this myself. It's going to take too long. Versus, as you're saying that, I'm like, yeah, I have one child. And I'm like, kid, you have legs. It's okay. You can walk.
Well, and I think you're like for me, my oldest one, he still is very like needy. Not in a bad way, but like, Mom, I'm hungry. I'm like, well, then get food. Like you're 15, like get up and grab some food. Like I don't need to like make a frozen pizza for you. Like you know how to turn on the stove but my 10-year-old, she'll just make it herself. So it is interesting what you do for
Man,
them,
what
the
a
more they expect
difference.
you to do. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. As you're saying that, I'm going, wow. Yeah. Only child life right now.
Hmm.
I'm creating a monster. Just kidding. She's not a monster in
No.
any way. But just recognizing that bigger families, they do more things for themselves.
They do, and they also learn how to collaborate. I feel like
Nice.
there's there's obviously a downside to having a lot of family because the attention gets spread, right? Like one kid doesn't get all of it. But they do learn how
Sure.
to collaborate in teamwork, even just like with housework. That's one of the main things we focus on is like, okay, it's a family home, so how are we going to make this work? And instead of me doling things up and being like, okay, you do this and
That's
you do
nice.
this and you do this, they kind of, I say teamwork it, figure it out. Like you're the oldest, help the little ones. What do you think they can do well? And go from there. So it kind of teaches them all of that.
Yeah. I think that's so great. Team Weatherford killing it.
Right?
What do you think as the mom of a big family, what are your biggest tools or keys for success?
Mm. Organization, writing it down so everyone can see it. I have a huge calendar. And so that way, anybody that does help you, if you have babysitters, if you're like my husband has like a really just, he works from home, but his schedule's all over the place. So for him to be like, oh, okay, I see where she's at. This is like, okay. And then this person has this. Also know like maybe where they can step in and help. Like for him, sometimes if I don't directly ask him, he may not even think
Yeah.
about the fact I need help. And so that gives it to them. And then I guess kind of delegation, being okay with other people helping you.
Yeah.
Because I'm not really that good at that.
I can
I
imagine.
like things a certain way. I like my kids to, I mean, even down to like the clothes that they wear. I'm very particular. If I had it my way, it would always be a certain way. So kind of let go of that and
Hmm.
just be okay with delegating out and knowing that getting it done is better than having it done just so.
Man, Laura, as you say that, I'm going, what a life lesson that having it done is better than it having to be a certain way. There might not be, but I just feel curious. Was there a moment in your life when you're like, yep, I have to just submit to it's just going to be this way, not
Um,
my way. It's just going to happen.
I don't know that exact moment, but We're actually in the process of moving right now, and this will be Ace's, which is my oldest 15, like his 28th home, I think, in 15 years. So through
Mild.
through that process, just kind of being okay to, like, my first house had to be perfect, right? Like everything had to be perfect. And then you have your first baby and you bring them home and like I wanted everything just perfect. When you start moving all the time, you're like, okay, what is actually my priority system? And for me, like
Hmm.
making sure that the priorities are done versus that's very small in life. A lot of the things that I think I care about are small. So I guess over time, just noticing that the small things are not important is probably, but I don't think there's one
That makes
defining moment.
sense.
You'd go crazy. I would.
That
I would
makes
have gone
sense.
crazy.
Oh, for sure.
So,
Well, with that, 7 different personalities in your house beyond your own.
yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Just have to allow that process to just happen. And, I obviously don't live at your house, but what I do know of your husband is like he's also has a very different personality than you.
Oh, yeah.
And I've yeah.
Yeah.
So I wonder, for those of you who don't know, because I sort of just kind of like kept it in the wind, is that Laura is married to Steve Weatherford, who is a former NFL kicker for the what team, so I don't mess it up.
The Giants.
There we go, for the Giants. And that was a really big part of your life.
Yeah.
Laura, how long was Steve in the NFL?
He played for 10 years, but we were together all through college. So that was like of our 20, it'll be 20 years, 20 years in March that we've been together. 15 of it really was football.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of your life. Even a lot of those years that you were making all these babies.
Yes.
A lot of
Yes.
your life.
It's true. A lot of it.
So that's an experience that your everyday person like me, doesn't have. What was it like to be married to somebody that was in the NFL?
So there were two sides of it. That's what I always.
Yeah, I will. So just
Okay.
start right back there.
So with the NFL comes, yes, the two sides. You have the opportunity side and you have the flip side of it. So the opportunity is that you do have access to a lot of different resources, both financially and from an influential standpoint, which just creates tons of opportunities with jobs, relationships, things of that nature. That I will say, while he was in the NFL, we probably didn't use very much. The thing I was most excited about was they gave me doctors to go to that didn't make me sit in the waiting room, and so I really liked that. Yes, it was a win. But the other side was that they did, like, Steve's schedule was completely dictated by a team. So what he ate, where he went, everything was pretty much on a schedule, which was I liked, except for there was one goal in mind, and that was that the team wins and that you play well. So everything else went by the wayside for that. Like, I knew, don't bring problems to him during the season. If he has a bad game, he might get fired. You just kind of swept things under the rug and
Wow.
handled things. So when he retired and it was kind of like, okay, I want to be a part of everything. I'm like, well, wait, what? Like, I have my own way of doing things now. And had trained myself just not to really bring issues to him. So that was something that we're still really working on. And I think a lot of guys in the NFL too, their entire worth comes from what they do, not who they are. And they don't even know who they are. And so I don't want to say everyone in the NFL because they might not even realize it. And it wouldn't just be the NFL, it would be maybe even military. It would be anything like that, that your whole
Sure.
life revolves around this one thing. And when you don't have it anymore, it's like, who am I and what do I do? So, as a wife and even like a mom with my kids were old enough to understand, Steve kind of going through the phase of finding himself again was very interesting. And they don't,
Sure.
the NFL, I would not say, does a great job of being a support system once you're not in it anymore. So it's kind of like, oh, great, thank you for your time. Now on to your next thing. But these guys don't transition quickly. I'm not saying they can't transition well, but it's not usually done quickly and well.
Sure. How did y'all navigate that?
Well, not well.
And by the way, I was about to say, just as a reminder, you're talking to your
Right.
best friend.
Um,
So that's your audience. So you can
uh,
tell the truth, as
Not
much truth as you
well. I mean, I kind of just maintained where I was of like, okay, just don't upset him. Don't do anything, try to do things so that he's happy. But nothing ever worked. And then he was like, why am I not happy? And so he was striving to try to figure out how to be happy. And yeah, it was not an easy season. I can't say that we did handle it well. And it's funny because a few moms, and not funny, but a few of the moms that we talked to at school that got divorced, they're always like, they'll talk about their ex-husbands. I'm like, oh, yeah, well, I understand, like I kind of dealt with that. And they're like, well, how did you get through it? And I was like, well, he had to want to change. And I think that for me, I just, again, twofold, like I would just go to bed and I would pray at night and say, like, let him be who I know he is, because I knew that that wasn't who he was. And luckily, God was able to allow me to see who he created him to be, not who he was projecting he was at that moment. And on the flip side, Steve
Yeah.
had the desire to change. He didn't like how he felt, and he didn't want to be that person. He knew the dad he wanted to be. He knew the father he wanted to be. He knew the friend he wanted to be. And he was willing to do the work to make the changes. And if you don't have the two parts, if you don't have both people wanting to do the work, then it is probably really hard. But I was very blessed that I had someone that would do it and was willing to.
Yeah, Laura, I'm actually appreciating that you're like, I would just go to bed and I would just pray for my husband. And I think so many women don't do that, that they don't pray for their husband, that they don't say, hey, listen, okay, that I don't have control here. Like I think it's easy for women to try to control of like, all right, I don't see these behaviors in you that I like. So I'm gonna tell you exactly who to be and what to do, and if you don't get mad at that, then I'm gonna be
Right.
angry. And I find myself wondering because I don't think that this is just like a Laura and Steve problem necessarily of not being able to communicate what's going on inside you or like squishing problems. The fact that you would squish them in order, like, kind of for your own survival of, all right, this is what provides us an income. This is what he does for a living. I don't need to rock the boat during season. I think so many people also live their life like that, not rocking the boat, just
Right.
keeping the peace. A lot of times they learn that as
Mm.
kids. So how did you overcome that?
In progress. I'm a
What
work
did
in
you have to
progress.
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
Definitely, that's my innate, like, I still go to that. I think it protects you, right? Like, if you don't talk about
Mhm.
it and you don't think about it, you may not, it's still back there though. So, uh, I mean, I have gotten a lot of support through our pastors, through coaches,
Mhm.
through therapists, and just like a
Yeah.
constant reminder, like, okay, you feel this way, you need to go talk to him. And provided, like, I mean, we've had marriage support, everything. Um, and then he actually helps me with it too. He'll be like, okay, just dump it. Like when he can tell I'm frustrated, he'll come in and be like, okay, just get it all out. Just like say everything you need to say. So knowing and being able to recognize within the other one that something's going on, and him learning enough about me
Yeah.
to be like, I know she's not gonna say it, so I'm just gonna kind of give her free rein, has been helpful.
I think what a picture though of friendship. Like you actually have to know and learn your partner in order to go, right, you're carrying stuff, just let me have it. And brave too. I'm not saying that you're ever mean, but like brave to give your partner like carte blanche of like, all right, just go, just dump it on me, let
Right.
me have it. How does how does Steve handle that, or what does he do when he's like, all right, give it
Well,
to me,
it
I'm
typically
ready.
starts out, so I don't often just say it. I'll think things, but then I don't say exactly what I think. So then I become kind of passive aggressive. It's not good. And so he'll
No
be like,
judgment here.
you're acting really short. Like you're just being short. And I'll be like, no, I'm not. And then I'll go to defense mode, and then he'll be like, all right, so I see there's an issue. Like, let's just, and I'll tell him, and then he'll say like, okay. Because really, a lot of times you just need to be heard, right? You just want to, even if you're technically not feeling the way you should and you're allowing your feelings to run you, still just want to be heard, right? Like, this is still what I'm feeling. And you sometimes need that
Right.
person just to dump to you. So he usually will take ownership where he feels like he can be better. He's good about that. And then kind of maybe dances around for a little bit and then comes to the point of like, okay, now where can you be better? Like, I can do this. Where can you do this so that we don't get to this point again? Yeah.
Yeah. It is. I love that you use the word dance because it is such a dance as a couple of learning each other and dancing and him hearing you and you hearing him and him taking ownership of like, yeah, I could totally be better. And then you're like, yeah, so could I. I could do these things differently too to make
Yeah.
sure we're not here.
It's not easy. I don't like to be wrong.
No, no one does. You know what I love though, that I have to give my husband credit for this. I did not come up with this. He says that if I always win, then I'm married to a loser, and I didn't marry a
Mm,
loser.
it's true. I did not marry a loser, but I still like to win. How do we both win, I guess? There you go.
That's. I think they've written books on that.
Is
I'm
there
not sure.
the win-win?
I'm
Yeah,
teasing.
sure.
There's, yeah, there's a book that talks about how one wins. Anyways, uh, what are the things like looking back on being an NFL wife that if you could have done something
Mm.
different, like what would you have done differently?
I would have celebrated it more. I was almost embarrassed of it
Hmm.
because I felt like I had more than what I should have been given. So I was always kind of like,
Hmm.
I wouldn't even tell people. That was never like, I would never be like, oh yeah, my husband's in the NFL. Or like, I would never take advantage of any of the situations, even down to like the Super Bowl and all of that. Like, I almost looked at it as like a chore. Like, oh, now I have to go to this
Yeah.
game. Oh, now I have to go to this game. I mean, come on. Like, that was just, I wish I hadn't done that. I wish I had enjoyed it and celebrated it.
I'm first of all appreciating your honesty, and second of all going, yeah, Laura from I don't know how many years to put on it, but Laura from a few years ago probably would have never said yes to my podcast to even talk about being an NFL
Right?
wife.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true.
Hmm. Oh, I just have a little girl that busted in to say
Hello.
hi.
Oh,
Oh, she's gone now. All right, come say hi to
aw.
me. Oh no, she ran off. She was like,
I
"I want
heard
to go
her.
say hi,
She's so
mama."
cute.
I agree. I So, Laura, in your time as being a mom and a wife, and I mean, honestly, supporting Steve's career is a huge role, and also having six children is a huge role. And like I go, and you're also not just like a mom and a wife. And I know this about you because I like know you, and I know that we like to like play nerdy games and have fun and But what are I mean, that's a lot of rich
Mm.
experience in life. of living that, still being a mom and a wife, what are some of your biggest lessons that if you're like, man, if I could tell a woman this thing, a woman that was struggling, if I could tell her anything, this is what I would tell
With a
her.
mom or a wife, or both.
We can start with a mom. We can start with
Um,
mom.
it's never as bad as what you think it is in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've had some really strange experiences with my son in the last week, and I'm like things that I just never would have thought would happen. And there would have been a time that I would have thought that it was like life changing. And now I look at it and I'm like, if that is life changing, it was changing for the way it was supposed to be. So like don't ever look at it as like my life is ending, my son's life is ending. Like that portion of what they may be is changing, but it's changing because that's the way it's supposed to be. That's like the way God intended it to be, and look at it as like excitement for what's changing versus fear of what's changing, because that's what I often used to do.
Yeah.
And then as a wife, the one thing that I've always stood on, the one thing that we've always stood on is like, you just don't give up. Like, I know that there are extenuating circumstances. I'm not talking about like if someone's abusing you, like, but most things in life you can get through if you're willing to work at it. And it's definitely worth it to work through it if you can. So just don't even allow that thought to
And
come
it
into your mind.
that is great advice, and it hasn't been all daisies and roses and unicorns and butterflies in your
Absolutely
marriage, right?
not. Absolutely not.
People hurt your
Not
feelings.
not at all. Like I mean, I had the husband who would leave and go get drugs. Like I've had those experiences where I'm like, okay, well, I have to try to find him. Like, where is he at? What is he doing? And I mean, no one, I wouldn't wish that upon anybody, and I would never ever want to go back to it. But I also see where he is now. And so when
Yeah.
people say like, "Oh, once a cheater, always a cheater," or people never change, I don't agree with that. Do I think people have to want to change to change? Yes, I think there has to be, whether it's like they just get so sick and tired of being sick and tired, or they go to jail. I mean, I don't know what it
Yeah.
could be. It could be huge or it could be small, but something can shift. But I'm not a person who believes people can't change. I believe change definitely can happen.
It sounds like you have walked it out. You and like both of you together, paid a price to stay together, to not give up, to fight the fight. And I imagine your marriage is probably better than
Yeah,
it's ever been. And not that it's not still
right. Oh,
growing,
yeah. I'm
but
not, it's not like I'm every day like, oh, he's the best husband I've ever been around. I mean, there's still days I'm like, okay, we get to work on that, but it's definitely the best it's ever been.
and you fought
Yeah.
for it. Because Laura, I mean, I'm wanting our listeners to really get the picture of this. You weren't the NFL wife that was in all the things, doing all the stuff, wanting to be
No.
seen, wanting to
But
whatever. That wasn't you. So you weren't it wasn't like staying with Steve gave you all this life that you were
no.
living and you would hate to give it up. That
No,
that
that would
wasn't the
have been
deal.
easier.
You fought, yeah, but you fought for Steve, you fought for your
Right.
children, and what a great message for our listeners to just stay in it, to keep
Yeah,
fighting.
it's worth it.
And I think that probably translates to your kids too, to fight for their hearts or their future
Definitely.
or
Especially in that
to
teenage
stay
years.
close.
It's rough.
Hmm. I'm not there yet, but I have been the counselor of many
Yeah.
teenagers. That is a tough
Oof. Yeah.
season. And 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 how important it is to have parents that want to fight for
Yep. And
you.
that they know it.
Like that see yeah, that see the value in you when you can't even see it in
Yeah.
yourself.
I think telling them that, that's the thing that I think a lot of people don't realize. And sometimes it's not just discipline, it's the flip side of like, it doesn't matter. Like, I love you no matter what you do. Like, I really will love you no matter what you do.
Mm. And the kind of kids, and I wish we could have the time to even go into it, but kids that are raised with that understanding just do better in life than kiddos that don't. And so seeing their parents fight for them, for their marriage, to hear I love you no matter what, like, those are kids that get to grow up in confidence, which is really just a beautiful thing. Laura, first of all, I miss your face, and I wish that you and I could chat a lot longer. And I'm like, we need to go
We
get
have it
coffee,
scheduled.
obviously. I know, but it's like
Yeah,
not soon enough.
it's true.
Tis true. Well, I'm really grateful that you were on my
Yes,
podcast
thank you
today,
so much.
and now for me just sharing some of your lessons, your life
Yes, ma'am.
lessons. Well, I'm giving you hugs from far away, and I will see you probably at church sometime in the
Yes,
near
ma'am. I
future.
will talk to you soon. Thank you so much. Yep.
Thanks again.
Bye.
See you later. All right, best friend. It was wonderful to spend time with you today. Thank you for joining me and my friend Laura Weatherford to just chat about be with each other and you today. I know that you're walking out with so many valuable lessons and things that she shared, and just encouragements from a mom of 6 kids, and being the wife of an NFL player and all that came with that. So thanks for being with us today. As always, my heart to yours.